Hello, hello, hello. Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to a new episode of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. Today, I have an incredible guest for you. Leucas Miller is a life coach, yoga teacher, and somatics practitioner. He knows that his life experience as a queer trans man of color was written in the stars many lifetimes ago and helps him serve a greater purpose. He coaches entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, and healers who have big visions and strive to be in service to their communities and the planet, and that also want to live the life of their dreams. Hello, hello.
Thank you for the intro. It's beautiful.
Thank you for the work you're doing. I'm so excited to speak with you and to know more about all these things that you're doing.
Well, I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I would like to start asking you, how did yoga came to your life?
Oh, what's the story? Well, I had just moved from California, where I was raised, to Birmingham, Alabama, to start a PhD program in marine biology. And when I had gotten accepted to the program, I had already known that I was going to start my medical transition from female to male before I had decided to go. And so when I went, it was really important to me to stick to that decision. And as you can imagine, being a first year PhD student and being a California transplant in Alabama and being queer, being a person of color, on top of all that, trying to medically transition was really, really, it was trying. I'll just say that. And it wasn't just my gender transition, but also just the way that I was brought up. I was very disconnected from my body and my well-being, and I was an adrenaline junkie and was always chasing highs, and I ended up really hurting myself a lot and sustaining some chronic pain because of the injuries that I had experienced. And so there were a lot of different reasons that I was not feeling at peace in my mind and in my body, and I wasn't sleeping well. It was just manifesting in a lot of different ways. And so a lot of different people kept telling me over the years, like, try yoga, like yoga helps with this, yoga helps with that, all those things. And I would give it like some shots here and there, but nothing adequate as far as like really trying it. And then it was just in Alabama when I had like really hit some lows with my physical well-being and especially my mental and emotional well-being, that I was just like, I need to do anything different right now. So I tried yoga, and luckily I lived right by a yoga studio that was just a couple minutes of walk for me. And they are rooted in the Ashtanga and Kundalini lineages. So they're very traditional as far as bringing in philosophy and like really making it a holistic practice. And that's exactly what I needed. And after my first class, I just went and did much self-study on philosophy and all the different aspects of yoga. I just like dove in so deep, and it ended up being a really profound experience for me in my healing. And I like completely turned a corner, and I haven't looked back since.
Amazing. And in the same line, how would you describe, or what can you say about the impact that yoga had in your transition process? Did it give you any tools? What can you share about that?
Yeah, it made coming back to my body a comfortable and nourishing and warm, loving experience that I had never had in like most spaces in my life. So to be able to create that for myself, especially in a relationship with my body, it was a big deal. I don't know. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that it saved my life.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And in what moment did you realize that you wanted to become a yoga instructor? What happened there?
Yeah, it was pretty quickly after. It was after a few months of just like getting more and more consistent with my practice and seeing more and more of the results. It just got to a point where it was like, I got to share this with all the queer and trans people I know. And then I had been running a trans support group through my university at the time. And I was just so excited about yoga that I just like, informally invited them to do yoga with me in the park. And I naturally just started teaching them, and it just came so easily. And like, I don't know, I guess I was good at it. Like, I was just teaching something that I knew a lot about because I was studying and practicing it every day. So it only made sense that I was sharing it too.
Perfect. And what is your opinion in terms of, let's say, traditional yoga spaces? When you started teaching, did you get people that were already practicing yoga, or maybe they didn't feel welcome in a traditional studio? What is your impression around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was noticing that I was the only trans person in the space, and oftentimes my teachers didn't know how to interact with me around my gender transition in a very sensitive or competent way. And like, luckily, because of the type of person I am, it didn't put me off. Like, I was still willing to be there and show up, and I ended up like filling kind of educator role with my teachers and teaching them how to be more inclusive and sensitive to my communities. So it was then that I realized, like, oh, there's like a really big need for this, to educate teachers and studios on how to be more inclusive, and also for people like me to be creating those spaces and hosting them and facilitating for one another. So yeah, I actually started a nonprofit there in the South to make yoga more accessible for LGBTQ folks and POC communities. And I was just hosting yoga classes all the time at studios that would host me. Was teaching, probably like one or two of those community classes a week. And after time, I was having so many students come up to me and affirm that like what I was doing was so needed, and how they didn't feel safe, or like even like they could even go try those other studios just because of their fear around not being seen properly in those communities. And a lot of people started stepping up and wanting to also teach and volunteer. And so, it just like came out of need, like a scholarship program to get people funded for their yoga teacher training programs. So yeah, I guess bottom line, what I'm trying to say is it was obvious it was very needed because of the amount of people that were coming forward and taking use of that space and wanting to become teachers too.
Absolutely needed. Totally agree. Yeah. Yes. Amazing.
Yeah.
And in what year was this?
This was 2015. Yeah, I came to my practice in 2015. I didn't start teaching until like the end of 2016 or early 2017, and that's when I started a nonprofit too.
Amazing. Love it.
Yeah.
And in the same line, what would you say about representation? Why representation matters, and especially in yoga spaces?
Representation matters because there's a real big sense of belonging when you see yourself reflected back to you in your community members, and especially your teachers, your guides, your mentors. And that sense of belonging brings more of a sense of safety, mentally and physically, even physiologically to our nervous systems. And when our nervous systems are in a space like that where we feel like we belong and we're safe, we're able to tap into so much more healing.
Totally agree. Yes, yes, yes. Love it. And how are you combining everything that you're doing? Because you're life coach, yoga, and also somatic practitioner. How does that look like?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, like I said, I wanted to share yoga very, very quickly with my communities because it had such a transformational effect on me and my healing, especially in regards to my gender transition, but also healing through a lot of relationship issues, especially around codependency. Philosophy just helped me find so much more agency and autonomy and more self-efficacy to actually stand for the life that I wanted to create for myself. So it was really quickly after, it was like a couple years after practicing and knowing that I had wanted to start this nonprofit and get more into public health, that I ended up leaving my PhD program to pursue that life for myself and be more in service to people in a more direct way than academia and science was providing for me. And so I started teaching and trying to share that experience with other people. And it was after, a couple of years of teaching like that I realized that I wasn't having the exact transformational effect on people that I had envisioned through public classes and even private lessons with people, because that kind of transformation takes a lot of time and energy and consistency, and group settings for public classes are not always the perfect place or the most conducive place to do all of that stuff. And so I just realized that it was going to take more one-on-one conversations with people to have be more of a guide or kind of an anchor for people on their journeys, so that they could have the same kind of transformational process that I had with yoga. So that's why I started life coaching, was to be able to be more in one-on-one conversations with people and have a more direct impact on folks. And so I still use yoga and bring that in. I use my experience with philosophy, all my knowledge around philosophy, to bring that in to guide people's healings, but also more so to inform myself and how I can show up to spaces with people that are going to really embody the kind of presence and clarity and reflection that people need in order to see, what's holding them back, what's getting in their way, what do we need to look at and get curious about in order to really help us move forward and create everything that we want to be creating in our lives. So really the yoga helps me show up to that space as a coach, but I use it for clients as well when there's a need for more embodiment work, and I bring in somatics to help with that embodiment work and restore the nervous system, and also get people to line up their nervous systems and their bodies with the future that they're trying to generate and create for themselves.
Amazing. And in case someone is watching this interview and they don't know what is somatics, how would you describe somatics?
Yeah, somatics is a trauma-informed way of working with the body and really looking at the nervous system and healing the nervous system. So there's a lot of different ways, practices that we use in somatic experiencing to help people regulate and restore their nervous system. Because anytime that we experience trauma, it has a really big energetic impact on our bodies, and our bodies end up holding that energy until it's really looked at and until it's mended or healed or discharged. And until we do that work, we're going to be still acting or creating from that pattern that our body is holding on to. So somatics is really kind of going into the body, seeing what it's still holding onto and storing, and finding ways to settle around that and release and maybe discharge.
Beautifully said. Amazing.
Thank you.
And how, for example, if someone is watching this interview and they are interested, how one of your programs looks like? What can someone expect?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of different programs. If you're talking about my coaching programs in particular, I usually start people with my Powerful Conversations program, which just involves 2 90-minute calls and a follow-up call where we really get to dive deep. People get to bring their biggest dreams and their biggest challenges, and we'll create insight into what's holding them back, and also give them actual strategy and plans to help them move forward. And that's always where I start with people in order to determine if we're going to be a really good fit for working together long term, because the client-coach relationship, it involves a certain level of trust and intimacy and the ability to really mesh together, because we're co-creating together in that space. I'm not just guiding people or telling people what to do. We're coming up with their program together as we go. And the better we're able to meet each other and work with each other, the more that we're going to call from one another, so that we can share different gifts and wisdom and insight to help get creative with their process and what's really going to serve them powerfully and move them forward in really exponential ways. So that process of getting to know each other on the first couple calls is really important to me, to make sure that it's a full yes on both parties. And then we talk about longer containers of working together, which I do in 4, 8, and 12 month increments with people.
Love it. So there you have all the information, the initial information. And finally, how can people find you? Give all the information. Where can they connect with you? Where they can find you? Where they can hire you? Everything.
Yeah, thank you. So my website is leucasloves.com, and my name is spelled Leucas. So leucasloves.com. You can get a lot of information about me there, my different programs there, and book calls, sign up for yoga classes, whatever it is that you need, you can get it there. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is @LeucasLoves, and again, it's spelled Leucas. And I highly recommend checking out my Love Troop community, which is my brand of my Patreon platform. I have almost 100 recorded yoga classes on there, and the library is continuously growing. It involves class passes to live classes with me, which is a really great complement to coaching with me, or a great way to start out to really help restore and build some resources needed to really start tapping into the imaginative faculty of our brain that helps us really vision and look into the future. Sometimes people aren't ready for that, or they're not there yet. So starting with my Patreon or my live yoga class is a great way to start.
Incredible. So you have all the information. Go check it out. Follow Leucas. Thank me later, because every single time I read one of your posts, I stay thinking for hours. So thank you.
Thank you. That's definitely the intention, is to get people curious and really start looking at, what's going on in their lives, and, how can we create something more optimum for ourselves?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, sharing your story. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. And thank you so much, everybody, for listening. I hope to get in contact with all of you and share space with all of you sometime very soon.
Yes. So if you're watching this video, like it, share it, subscribe, because this is a message everybody needs to know. Yoga really is for everybody. And also life coaching. Yes.
Thank you.
A big hug. See you soon. A big hugs in your homes. And see you in a new episode of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. Bye.